Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. State of public emergency declared in St. James. Opposition believes dengue cases are underreported. And later in sports, organization gets another chance at JFF membership. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shamela Pullen. Here are the details. A state of public emergency has been declared in St. James. News of the enhanced security measure comes on the heels of the shooting deaths of 3 people on Monday, 2 of whom were children. Prime Minister Andrew Holness made the announcement during post-cabinet press briefing this morning. Our reporter, Jamaica Maitland, was there.
Thanks, Shamela. So in announcing the declaration of the state of public emergency, the Prime Minister called on every Jamaican to remember the victims of the Salt Spring attack, the adult and the 2 young boys who were killed in such a tragic situation. He said the Governor General would have signed off on the declaration this morning.
You could be in a taxi. In a public space. Opens fire using a weapon that overpenetrates. It's a high-powered weapon. This is not ordinary crime.
Now, Prime Minister Andrew Holness also called the attack as the worst of the worst. And usually it makes way for the death penalty. And the last time the country was in a space like this, it was when 8-year-old Daniel Rowe was killed. Now it caused major uproar with lots of Jamaicans asking for the government to revisit the death penalty. Now the conversations would have made its way into Parliament and the Prime Minister condemned the attack. But last time he stopped short of asking for the death penalty. Now this morning, he may seemingly have changed his view.
I was never a supporter of the death penalty. But the more I study this matter and begin to understand the minds of the criminals, there are no souls there. They have no heart. They need to be removed from among us.
Reporting from the post-cabinet press briefing, I'm Jamaica Maitland. It's back to you in studio.
Thanks, Jamila. Meanwhile, opposition leader Mark Golding says the state of public emergency is a strategy the government has been relying on for the past 5 years, and he believes it is not one that is valid.
We understand the need to respond very strongly to what happened in Salt Spring community, and I want to extend condolences to the parents and family of the 2 young boys who were killed in that awful incident. You know, we heard Leroy Clark yesterday in Parliament call for a Zozo in the community. Now, the zones of special operations are something that we support, in appropriate cases, and we feel that that would be the right mechanism to deploy here. The states of emergency, as you know, we do not think that they can be validly used as a policing tool. And they haven't worked because the crime problem in the country continues.
Meanwhile, the Jamaica Defence Force says it has conducted more than 11,000 deployments in St. James since the start of the year. The JDF is urging citizens to cooperate with the security forces under the SOE to tackle crimes in their communities.
And the JDF is committed to playing its part in the fight against crime. We urge you to join us in this fight by supporting the work of the security forces. Tell us what you know. Call the JDF tip line at 876-837-8888 or Crime Stop at 311. Your cooperation is critical to the success of our mission. I take this opportunity to reiterate the JDF's commitment to working with the JCF and our citizens to create a safer Jamaica for all.
National Security Minister Dr. Horace Strang says the country is seeing an increase in triple and quadruple killings in the last few months. Dr. Chang was also speaking at Wednesday's post-cabinet press briefing.
The event in Salt Spring was, of course, not only heart-rending, but touched the emotion of the entire nation as we saw 2 children. And that was preceded by another incident in the corporate area where 3 individuals were killed, including a little girl. It is unfortunate that it is this kind of brutality that had to shake us again as a country. And I would hope that the entire nation would respond to the Prime Minister's call for unison in attacking these brutal criminals.
To a TVJ News follow-up, the search continues for British national Robert Dyer, who went missing in Ballards Valley, St. Elizabeth on Sunday. Acting Commanding Officer for the St. Elizabeth Division, Deputy Superintendent Coleridge Minto, says the group is looking to cover a wider area today. According to reports, the 60-year-old man arrived in the country last week and decided to embark on a nature walk. He reportedly lost his way while trying to return home and made contact with family via telephone. However, his phone later died. Opposition spokesman on health, Dr. Maurice Guy, believes dengue cases are underreported. Dr. Guy also says the Ministry of Health is not targeting all the areas reported for mosquito breeding. Romardo Lyons reports.
On November 1, the Ministry of Health in a release said of the 2,763 suspected cases, 694 cases have been confirmed. That's a 250 increase in dengue cases compared to the last report in October. But opposition spokesman on health, Dr. Maurice Guy, says the figures could be much higher.
Some are seen by private physicians, and although it is what is classified as a class 1 notifiable disease, there are some physicians who don't report it. So, plus there are patients who come down with dengue who, based on what has been told in terms of the symptoms, they self-diagnose themselves, and what that is not added to the numbers.
The Ministry of Health also said that there was no need for panic as the numbers reported are expected. But while Dr. Guy agrees, he explains it is not dependent on any measure the ministry should be taking.
In that, with increased fogging, with increased vector control, with increase in the number of persons on the ground doing what they're supposed to be doing, looking for sites that are breeding sites of mosquitoes, with the drain cleaning program that the ministry and the government has announced, then certainly if those are in place right away, then we will see a reduction in the anticipated numbers compared to what the ministry is actually saying.
Dr. Guy also said the Ministry of Health is only paying attention to areas where the mosquito index is very high. He says the ministry should not wait until other areas get out of control because that would be a disaster.
I'll speak parochially. In St. Mary here, I constantly get complaints from persons that there's a lot of mosquito and we need to have it fogged. You call the health department, they will plan to do it. But there's a roster that is put out by the Northeast Regional Health Authority, which they sometimes have to follow slavishly. So the point I'm making in what more they can do is, one, to be a little more adaptive in terms of how they respond to these concerns that have been issued by the citizens.
Romardo Lyons, TVJ News.
Meanwhile, Dr. Guy says now that the COVID-19 pandemic is over, the Ministry of Health needs to place more emphasis in ensuring all children are fully vaccinated. Dr. Guy says this is critical to the health and well-being of the child, especially with numerous viruses circulating in the environment.
The ministry is more reactive in its approach to things. Okay, dengue is on the horizon. Dengue is what is being attended to now. COVID is basically fading in the background. And without a proper handle on any of these diseases which are there. For example, if you look at the immunization rates among children during the COVID period, that was significantly reduced because all the resources were directed at COVID-19. Now, the ministry needs to have, well, an expanded cohort of persons doing the immunization.
The Ministry of Tourism says it intends to expand the linkages program so that more local farmers can benefit. With food security under threat due to a number of factors, the move is seen as critical. According to the Chief Technical Director in the Ministry of Tourism, David Dobson, the problem of food security is becoming more serious and predicts it will worsen due to climate change. But he says the good news is the COVID-19 pandemic forced hotels and local producers to collaborate.
Food security refers to the availability, accessibility, and affordability of nutritious and safe food for all individuals. In the context of Caribbean tourism, it encompasses not only the provision of diverse and delicious meals, but also the assurance that these meals are prepared and served under the highest standards of safety.
Mr. Dobson says long before the pandemic, the program with local farmers was in place. Essentially, it links farmers with purchasers in the industry. But the industry is seeking to expand initiative.
If the agricultural people are in the room, that the hotels do have specifications for every food item that is supplied. The size, the shape, the color, everything. They do have the specification, and it does require research and technology.
In 2013, Cabinet approved the Tourism Linkages Network. The aim is to increase the consumption of goods and services that can be competitively sourced locally, as well as to create employment while generating and retaining the country's foreign exchange earning potential. It's time for a break. Stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. It's now time for the Business Minute.
The Tourism Ministry says it expects to improve on visitor arrivals out of the United Kingdom and Ireland and has set a new target of 250,000 over the next 2 years. The announcement follows Jamaica being named the #1 Caribbean destination among UK visitors last year. 229,000 British visitors arrived in the country last year. The Ministry of Tourism says the island is poised to welcome over 3 million visitors at the end of the year, raking in foreign exchange earnings of $4.2 billion. Further afield, PricewaterhouseCoopers PwC Australia on Wednesday announced hundreds of job cuts, citing a slowing economy and the after effects of a national scandal over leaked tax documents as a major audit client cut ties with the firm. The audit and consulting major has been under fire this year after revelations a former partner leaked government tax plans and used them to win work with global companies looking to restructure their Australian tax affairs. PwC Australia will make 338 staff redundant due to a slowing economy. The redundancies are about 4% of the some 7,600 workers left at the firm. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Shane Masters.
It's now time for the Midday Sports. We look at lower
progress. From time to time, we'll find one here and there that just doesn't seem to get any results. And that's usually because they just waited way too long to begin the process of spinal correction. So the sooner we begin, the better.
That's the health report in Primetime News at 7. And now for today's healthy living tip. Strengthen your core muscles. Avoid sitting with poor posture. Reduce pressure on your back when you sleep. Watch your weight. And if you smoke, quit. And we now have Spencer Darlington with the Midday Sports Report.